Cheers, guys. Epix 911, welcome to VR Roundup, episode 29 on a Tuesday. Quite the hectic last few days. I think schedule-wise, it's going to probably be one VR podcast episode between the Gaming Friday and Tuesday Roundup episode. And then I'll do the Wednesday and Thursday for number 2 and 3 of the week. That seems to kind of be where my schedule is going to, like gravitating in that direction. So we're going to keep that up. I realize those of you who only watch the VR Roundup show may not realize, because I forgot to mention it on the Friday, that I was appearing on VR Roundtable. That episode was released yesterday. So if you hadn't had a chance, guys, I really enjoyed being there. The comments over on that video, just really appreciate you guys having my back, having the channel's back. That is frickin' awesome. And whether the support is through Patreon, comments, constructive criticism, likes, etc., guys, just know it is appreciated very much. And with that said, so we don't get too sappy, let's jump into VR current events and news, starting with me talking a lot about mech games being such a perfect fit. Well, the granddaddy to that would have to be tank games, which are also a great fit. I used to spend hours. Games like Panzer General. If you've never heard of it and you love strategy games, guys, as long as you're okay with some dated graphics, play it. I think it's over on GOG, maybe even Steam, but check it out. Another game I enjoyed, M1 Tank Platoon, which was the tank version of Silent Hunter, the sub simulator that I loved so much. Those games really gave you the feeling of what it's like to command and drive. Specifically, M1 was about driving for me, that feeling of having a tank at my fingertips, and then Panzer General, more the tactical command overview. Well, how awesome with virtual reality. It pairs even better. Developer Wargaming announcing that it will be forming a new development arm along with a company called VR Tech. They're calling the division Neurogaming. It's going to focus on location-based gaming, i.e. VR arcade-style configurations. And their first game is a game that's going to be called World of Tanks. Multiplayer, mayhem-style tank game. Looks really good. As we get more details, I'll let you know. Now, speaking of comparing tank games to mech games in terms of VR awesome, we have a mech game called Vox Machinae, and it's going to be entering a closed beta soon. The game features more of the lumbering style mechs that I personally really like, as opposed to the hyper-fast rigs variety. Nothing wrong with those. Those have their time and place. But for the most part, I just prefer the lumbering Mechworrier style more. Well, apparently the game has been getting a lot of polishing since it first reared its head way back in the DK1, DK2 era. The game now featuring motion input controls, and according to Dev Space Bullet, the following other features. A unique mix of weighty and tactical simulation with responsive action. Of course, you piloting a hulking robot across various hostile planets with your computer AI for company. You get to choose between 5 distinct grinder chassis, each with their own benefits, positives, negatives, etc. You can customize your loadout, basically an array of devastating weaponry, all yours to choose from, immersive physics. You can play offline, local network, or online with up to 16 people. It's been optimized for smooth VR performance, as well as visual quality, and like I said from the outset, full motion controller support. You can see some of that. I may have it up right now. If not, go over to Road to VR, where the article's from. I should have the link in the description below. And yeah, you can see how much interaction there actually is in the cockpit. It just looks fantastic. Next, David Jagno over on UploadVR has a review up for the horror game The Inpatient. And of course, that's a spiritual cousin to developer Supermassive's previous horror game Until Dawn. taking place approximately 10 years prior to the events of Until Dawn. Now, I've got an innate bias for games set in Canada, for obvious reasons. This one, set in the stereotypically snowy Canadian mountains. As with Until Dawn, David says the game is about 3 hours long. That's a bit of a shame to me. I was hoping for something more along the lines of Resident Evil 7, which for me clocked in at basically a dozen hours. Now, the other negative for him was character interaction. He said at least a dozen potentially amazing characters to interact with, but far too briefly to build up any type of fear or loathing in Vegas or these snowy mountains. Move controllers, he said, were slightly worse than the DualShock 4 controllers, which he also wasn't that thrilled with. He said, for example, you have to press backwards to activate a 180-degree turn. So I've talked a lot about his negatives. What about positives? Well, atmosphere, thrilling, terrifying, great lighting, sound design for the various in-game sets, also a nice plot twist. The game available via the PlayStation VR store for $39.99 US. Now, to me, given the review alone, it comes in too costly for me, but each of you need to make up your own mind on that. I'll wait for a sale. I love horror games, but not to the tune of 3 hours for $40. I'll pay movie ticket prices for movie-length experiences as a maximum if it's a great game, but not double or triple that. ALtSpace VR's former CEO and founder Eric Romo, now a product director at Facebook. This according to social VR team leader Rachel Rubin Franklin. Given the fact Eric likely had to mourn the death of his company multiple times last summer before they got that final lifeline, he'd probably made his peace with separating from the company. Although, like I said, at that point, he probably thought the company was going to just go bankrupt and disappear. Now that he's been able to bring his staff safely to shore under Microsoft's umbrella, well, he's not sticking around. He is apparently going to Facebook. He says it wasn't an easy decision, but that he leaves ALtSpace VR with confidence that the team is well placed to continue pushing forward on their initial promise of virtual communication as part of Microsoft's mixed reality ecosystem. Not sure if this was the best move for him personally, but it was a fantastic move for Facebook. And this story, very shocked yesterday to see various Microsoft Mixed Reality Alliance vendor HMDs on sale on Amazon for very aggressive prices. Take the following. Acer, their mixed reality headset with controllers, which generally is $400 US, 45% discount, $220 US. Lenovo on for $245. The Dell visor, my favorite, $220, and tongue-in-cheek on that for reasons most of you probably remember. HP Windows, $240. So discounts ranging from 39 to 52%. I was going to say 47, but no, 39 to 52% discount. I'm shocked in the sense that those are significant discounts this close after launch. Perception is that sales have been very slow, at least to me, to warrant this type of an extreme sales defibrillator, because that's what this is. Now, it could be they're simply wanting to boost already brisk sales, but my gut instinct tells me it's for the opposite reason, wanting to jumpstart that which really hasn't done much for them sales-wise. Either way, it's obviously a coordinated effort by the vendor alliance, but for now, the why, pure speculation. What I can say, if you wanted one of these, a pretty damn good time to get one. And this last story, these gloves, the VRFree und VRFree, again with the, anyways, it's 2018, and right off the bat, we've got another one of these plays on the acronym. But I digress. VRFree are gloves from a company called Sensoryx. And their strength lies in that they're not currently anyways devoting any time to haptics. Their focus, almost their sole focus, is tracking, and they've got tracking right down to finger level. Now, we talked about this over on VR Roundtable, but I had some additional thoughts to that, and Gary on that show had some thoughts as well that I agree with, and they are that they picked possibly the worst example for that type of glove, shooting and holding a gun. A, there's going to be some occlusion there. B, you don't have that tactile sensation of actually holding something. Where I personally think those gloves would shine is manipulating cockpit controls. So we just talked about the tank game, for example. Now imagine having a HOTAS type configuration plus those gloves. So you've got HOTAS for your steering and immediate stuff, but all those secondary functions, the toggle switches, you know, that might not be on your stick. Maybe it's infrared or, you know, night vision, whatever it could be. All of that could be manipulated with the gloves. Hell, you might be in frosty terrain, and it could be as simple as you wiping your cockpit glass to keep it frost-free or from steaming up. That would add a ton of realism to the game and improve the immersion by leaps and bounds. So absolutely like this type of glove. I think it's easy to put on, and I love the fact that they're not trying to be everything. They've, like I said, held up the flag to surrender to haptics. Not now. We're going to focus on tracking. So yeah, with the right type of application, where I think it'll shine, I mentioned earlier, is controls, tutorials or games where you're having to manipulate things with your hand that aren't necessarily things you're going to hold for any amount of time. I think that might still be better served with your touches and your Vive Wand controllers. Either way, very cool. No word on that yet. And of course, the negative being you've got a program for it specifically. How many games are actually going to end up using something like this? But nonetheless, I really like the technology. Guys, that is it for this Tuesday episode. We'll be back tomorrow and the following day with VR podcast episodes, and then, of course, end the week with Gaming Friday. Guys, have a fantastic week. Thanks again for all your support. We'll catch you next time. As always, cheers.